Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Susan Caperso, End of Life Doula, and I'd like you to meet Lisa Strauss Lawrence. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Susan. It's good to be back again. So, this is the Sands of Time, the end of life journey and beyond, and we're continuing our discussion about bereavement. Today, we're going to be talking about time. And I want to really open with a beautiful poem that both Susan and I have used before, and it resonates with us about really how we look at our loved ones and how they are with us always. So, I'm going to quote this Rabbi Kamens, and here it is. At the rising of the sun and its setting, we will remember you. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we will remember you. At the opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember you. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of summer, we will remember you. At the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember you. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember you. For as long as we live, because you were part of us, we will remember you. So I wanted to start with that
That's beautiful,
because,
Lisa. I've used that before in things. It's beautiful.
yeah, it is. It really
Just
says it
repeat
all.
that reverend's name so people
Sure,
have
sure.
it.
He's a rabbi,
Rabbi.
and it's Rabbi Sylvan Kamens. That's Kamens, Kamen.
Great. Thank you.
Just so appropriate for us as we go through time. So today we talk about the beginning of the bereavement process, which we had referred to a little bit before. And now we talk about as time goes on. So the first year, as we had mentioned last week, filled with all kinds of mixed feelings. Certainly being overwhelmed, um, an overall sadness, disbelief, anger sometimes that that person's no longer with us, and just a feeling of unbalance. It's like, how do you now function? What do you do now? How do you go on? That's the big thing with the first year. And for me, it's the support, finding the support of people, needing that close family to really bring you that love and that feeling of we're here for you. And this is not the time to worry about I'm asking too many things, I'm asking too much of people. This is the time where you allow people to give to you. So many people have said to me, "Well, what do I say? What do I do?" Just let people be there for you. That's the most important thing. And that includes your friends. Friends knew you as a couple or knew that person perhaps, and now they need to be there just for you as an individual. Colleagues, maybe you're taking time away from work. Maybe, you need your break. And so colleagues need to make sure that they make you feel like you're not just forgotten. You haven't just disappeared. You're there with them, even though physically you may not be able to function as well. It may take you a little time to get back to work. But by the way, I found work to be very reassuring. It was something that I knew I could go to, something that was more of a routine. And when I was ready and I felt that I could function and I could focus on it, it was a really, um, it was easier for me to now know that I was going to a certain place, that I knew that that was a place I could go to comfortably, that I functioned before. So many things are different now.
And again, that's not for everybody,
Yes,
right? Some people can't make it through the day for a
yes.
long period of time. I know with me, I had gone back to work. I worked at a corporate job and sat behind a desk. I went back probably about 3 weeks later. And as much as I didn't want to go back and thought that I couldn't do it,
Mhm.
it really was a distraction
It was.
because I had certain tasks that I needed to get done every day. So while I was concentrating on those, it was distracting you from what's going on in your own life.
Yes, that absolutely happened to me as well. I'd been in an accident before my husband died, and so I was dealing now with the accident itself and what had happened to me in addition to the death. So it was two things of being able to function, but boy, it felt great to be able to go back to something that I knew I could do and a place for me to be. That was very reassuring to me. There's a lot of challenges, especially during that beginning time. Paperwork alone, it's like, what am I doing with all these death certificates, and where do I have to send things, and who do I have to contact? It is very overwhelming. And so, look to people who can help you, who can give you advice, or who just you trust, because it is complicated. Do I pay credit cards? Do I pay this bill? What do I do? So again, look to those people to help you get some advice. Same thing with just the general functioning of the
There are so
house.
many decisions that do need to be made and they will need to be made, but not now.
Yes.
Not now. During the first 6 months to a year, you don't make any big decisions, any big financial decisions, any decisions about moving. That's important. I
Yes.
went through that with my mother in law, and my husband's family just wanted her to move. Let's just pack up, get away from the memories, get away. And that was more devastating for her to have to be brought from upstate in her beautiful country
Mm,
farmhouse
mm,
to the island, and they bought a beautiful trailer for her in a place, but it was not home. It was not where he was. So it was two losses too soon.
wow.
You really need to wait to make these decisions because they're so overwhelming. And if there is a big decision to be made, right? And sometimes there are, always get help.
Yes.
Get the assistance of a friend or family member. Don't make any decisions on your own because some decisions you can't take back.
Yes, absolutely. And again, get help with the things you have no idea about. People say, well, he did all the bills or she did all of this. And so you really have to make sure that you get some information, get some help with those things. Because again, you're trying to take care of everything. And again, if you're a parent, now you're dealing with children too, and you're dealing with their loss. So there's a lot of different things that are heaped on you that you need to handle during this particular time. Um, I asked my kids, I remember the fact that, my husband and I always did our bills together. That's just what we did every Friday night. We'd sit down and we had a system. And all of a sudden, I felt like I had no system. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, find the bills, where to put them. I didn't know anything.
Even though you had been doing
Yeah,
it, now you're
yeah,
lost because he's not sitting there.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So my kids put together some kind of system, which I still use today, and it had months and dates, and we wrote things down, and just it was something that was really helpful to me, something really simple, but I needed it. I just needed that to get back into some kind of new routine.
Exactly. And it could be a new routine that
Yes.
you get back into, and there's nothing wrong with that. Getting back to the workplace though, really it's important that you don't make any rash decisions within the first 6 months, I'd say, right? With
You know,
changing of jobs or
I- you
quitting
know,
or
I'm going to mention something,
yeah.
and I'm sure you'll understand. But I had been working, this is way back in the 80s. I'd been working in a mental health center. And I'd been working there for a while. I was very dedicated. These were all mental health people. So you're talking about social workers and psychiatrists and psychologists. And I was in charge. I was in charge of the office. I was in charge of intakes. I really had a lot of responsibility. My father died of a massive coronary on vacation during that time period. And it was a real shock, a real shock. And it was clear that my husband and I reevaluated where we were at that time. We'd been together many years and we'd been putting off having a child and all. And I have to tell you that I turned to him probably a week after and I said to him, I really would like to have a child. We've waited a long time, and I just think this is the right time to think about that. And I really would like to have my own business. I've worked for these people, I've enjoyed it and all, but I'd like to be on my own. So this was I gave him 6 months notice and I left. And maybe that was a rash decision, but I will tell you that it felt to me that it was the right thing for me at the time. And I think it might be different from a spouse, having a parent die and all. You feel a little like an orphan kind of thing, and having a child. we had talked about it anyway. It's not like it was something that we didn't know about, but it was something that was so right. And I did give them notice, and it took them a long time to figure out to replace me. They ended up replacing me with 3 people. So obviously I was doing too much.
Yeah,
But
but it will be different for everybody.
it is different for everybody. And in general, it is true. You don't want to go moving and uprooting yourself. And, just functioning on a daily basis is enough to handle.
Yeah.
And that's really the beginning of the time. And then it's interesting when it comes to the second year. On the second year, I have found that a lot of people start saying to me that they begin to feel different. I began to feel different. I wanted to, meet new people. I wasn't going to date, but I was wanted to meet new people. Friends, sort of some relationships changed. Couples that I knew before sort of weren't couple anymore. It wasn't comfortable that way anymore. I wanted to meet some single friends. I wanted to meet people who maybe were widows that were like me, that would understand how I felt. I wanted to go out and do activities and just be out in the world. So the second year is an interesting time for some people. Again, these are some generalities. The journey is so individual, but it is true that so many people say that things sort of start changing in the second year, and they are more open. For instance, some people decide to go to these activity groups, whereas other people are sitting in bereavement groups, and maybe now those people become their new friends. So they're expanding sort of their networks. They have a little better handle on what's going on. They have some new routines that they have going on. And I think that things are starting to evolve. I will say that in my book, with the 12 families, they all handle that second year differently. And some people really did start dating, and in fact, started dating even before that. I don't feel there's any rules. I feel it's so important that people find their way, so that they are comfortable with whatever's going on in their life, and that they feel that this represents the best that they can do. I hate.
Exactly. And we can't judge.
No,
We can't judge because it is so different for every single person.
yes, it is.
I've known people to move on and need that relationship in their lives, and you can't judge that either if
That's right.
you're with somebody a year later. For me, it's been many, many years, and I still am not in a relationship, but it was different for me, very
Yes,
different. So it's just important to remember, not judge. We're all in our own moments, day by day. It's one step at a time.
yes,
And the most important thing I think through this whole journey, though, is that it is going to unfold and work out the way your journey's supposed to work out. But you have to be gentle with yourself.
oh yeah,
Self-care, right, is a really,
yes,
really big part of this. And
yes,
I remember feeling, especially the first year, that I felt like I was a little girl,
me too.
right? Almost like a little baby. And I needed to
Somebody needs
just,
to take care of me.
I
Yes,
needed
that's
somebody to
right.
pat me on the back and rub
Right.
my head and say, everything's going to be okay. But there was nobody around to do that for me. So I found I would go get a pedicure because I
Mm,
think I mentioned that in one of the other videos, when they rub your shoulders. And that made me feel so comforted. So there are things that you can do like that.
yes,
Or again, you can lay in bed under the blankets
yes,
and cry,
yes,
and you have that choice, you have
yes,
that option. But it's important to think about taking care of yourself and self-care, whether that be taking a walk outside, even if it's a half a block, and coming home just to feel the air and breathing, whether it's eating a little bit better, because now you're preparing meals differently too.
sure, sure, for
And
one
that's a
person.
huge part
Yes,
of being alone, or even if you have family there, it's just nothing's the same,
yes, exactly,
right?
exactly. And as time is passing, I love the people who say, hey, it's been already 2 years. Hey, aren't you ready to move on? Or, aren't things different? Or, no, that's not how it goes. And we all need to make sure that people um, accept and realize that it's not time says this. It's that time may help heal and time may change how you feel, but there's no time for grief or to stop or to act differently. There's no time. Um, there are certainly changes, and I want to go to the 5 year mark because it's pretty interesting. Um, at the 5 years, so many people have described so many changes in their lives. They decide to go back to school because it was unfinished. It was something that they always wanted to do, but didn't get to do it. Or they decide to start dating, or they do weddings. I mean, I did my daughter's wedding. I guess it was 2 years after my husband died. No, yeah, less than 2 years. And that was big, by the way, walking her down the aisle with my son. That was really big. But just the planning and everything on my own, and of course, thinking of how he should be here now to share this time. Um, but you realize that everything else still happens. The world doesn't stop, even though you feel it has. And 5 years, look, kids get born, grandchildren, are born, and it almost is a reminder that life is life. Life is for living as our loved ones would want. And I say that all the time because I understand that people feel guilty that they're still alive. I get that. But everybody needs to realize that this is our lives now. This is we're the ones who are living and they're the ones who are gone, that we are celebrating them and keeping them with us always. But it's now our turn to continue to live that life differently. I always think of, the life before and the life after. And that's true because life has changed in so many ways. And of course, we have changed as well. But we need to feel that we deserve our happiness. We deserve to make the life that we want to make for ourselves. And it looks different. It's going to be different.
It
And that's
absolutely
okay.
is. It
That's
is,
okay.
and it is okay. And something hit a nerve when you were speaking, so I don't mean to reverse
No,
the
go ahead.
tables here, but I started thinking about right after your loss and how we are all different, and they're things. Okay, so if the person was living with you, if it's a spouse or otherwise, there are things in the house.
Yes,
That's a huge
it
feat
is.
in itself.
It is.
And people do it all differently.
Yes,
My
they do.
aunt left my uncle's things in the house for several years and
Yep.
didn't touch the dresser and all that. For me, it was odd and different, but I wanted everything out of the room,
Me too.
where he kept his things in another room we have with a big closet, but it smelled of him. Really, the smells are there too, not just
Yes.
hearing and sight, but your sense of smell.
Yes.
So anyway, I packed most of it all up, but there was quite a bit that I saved for my boys in case they wanted to go through it one day. They weren't ready for that either. And with the big box that I did take out of the house, I put out and I have a detached garage. And I I don't want to say that I'm ashamed to say it because it's been so many years for me right now, but the box is still there.
Wow.
The box is still there. Now, I've grown in many ways. I mean, look at the career path I've chosen,
Sure.
an end of life doula.
Sure.
So it's easy for me to talk to other people, but the pizza man doesn't bring home pizza. So
Right.
the box sits in the garage, and honestly, it's overwhelming on my heart to go through. My husband was a big man. He was 6'8",
Wow. Wow.
and 300 pounds. So he was tall and thin, but his shirts were just not shirts. And he collected certain shirts and he had certain styles and nice things. But yet, so I'm leaving it for the boys because I just still can't get to that one thing. So that's okay.
That is okay because
It's
again,
okay.
everybody's different. For me, my children were still home with me after he died and stayed with me for a while, especially since I had an accident. And our determination was to make sure that we got all of my husband's things out of the house. And we donated them to certain places that we wanted to that meant something to us. But we did everything. And I felt better about that. That was important to me as part of my healing process. I didn't want them around. And again, you can see the difference in, that we all accept our inner voices and what we're trying to tell ourselves and how we go about coping and dealing with this major loss. Look, all of us who certainly have lost spouses believe that we would all grow old together. You know, uh, um, we all felt that we would have our parents around as we grew older.
And siblings,
And
siblings. What about a
yes,
best friend? A best friend that you just spent 20 years with.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
that's hard. You're losing these relationships, but there are things you can do
yes,
to help yourself to get through them
yes,
and
yes,
flow through the journey in a gentler, nicer, kinder way, and learn, as you said earlier, to celebrate
yes.
their life instead of mourning and grieving it. There's a
Correct.
difference.
There is
You're
huge
still
difference.
mourning and grieving by
Yes,
celebrating their life.
that's right.
However, it does something different for you.
It
Now you're
does.
making it a different kind of journey, I
It
think.
does. Absolutely. And then when we look at time, look at 10 years. Life after the loss and life before the loss. There are so many changes that people talk about in their lives and their outlook, their own personality, what they choose to do with their lives. Same thing. Should I be over it? Should I get over it? It's not that. It's that the person is still part of you and they always stay with you wherever you are, which is why I read that poem. But that you now are continuing your life and you are continuing your journey, um, celebrating special occasions without that person, but on an ongoing basis. And we come up. I mean, I certainly come up with traditions that have helped me. In my tradition in watching certain movies and celebrating certain days, though, people would say, I can't believe you watch this every single year, but I do. And it's my time to be with that person, my
And I
time to
got to
have that.
tell you, Lisa, that's something I didn't do, right? Until we had the discussion about it. And you had called me on my anniversary and said, "So what are you doing today that's special?" And my
Yes.
first thought was, well, nothing, because we were we were married between Christmas and New Year's. So that was a bad time to celebrate an anniversary with those two big occasions that week. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something small. And it keeps coming up. A certain movie that he watched all the time was his favorite movie, a 3 to 4 hour movie. And I said that it came up that day. And I
Yeah,
said, that's a
wonderful.
sign from
It is.
Lisa.
That's a sign. That's a
That's a
sign.
sign.
And
So
how to feel and how to feel as you were watching the movie.
I got to
And
tell you, I bought a bottle of wine for the occasion.
good, good,
And I was
good.
by myself and I lit candles and I put the movie on. And I gotta tell you, it was so fulfilling, peaceful, because it's a peaceful movie as well. Wasn't one of these war type of crazy movies, but it was so comforting.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, why haven't I done this before now? And the reasoning I came up with is because I just wasn't ready.
Yeah,
I
that's great.
just wasn't ready, and today I was ready. So that's how you have to kind of see the milestones, right?
Yes, yes. I think that people need to start thinking about how they can, on an ongoing basis, keep that person, celebrate that person's life within the life that you're living. And that time is special. My online memorial website, I love adding to it. I love putting another virtual flower on at my birthday, at our anniversary, at his birthday. I love doing that. I
We're
love
gonna do
lighting.
a we're gonna do a
Yes,
video about that
yes,
site
yes,
because
we
it's
are.
so important to you.
We are. We
But
are.
even for the people that are watching this today that have not suffered a loss, and maybe you're watching it, so you can help somebody else maybe in their loss.
Yeah.
I have to add one thing. If you are a friend or family member or even an acquaintance, but so more so for family and friends, when you don't talk about the
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier today, Lisa, about something, and it sticks in my mind because, I had one occasion where there were many people that knew the both of us, and nobody wants to talk about. Nobody brought him up. Nobody talked about the things that Big Jim did, and he was a very loud, funny man. He was the life of the party.
Mm,
Literally, my house got quiet after he left. But and at that occasion, nobody really discussed it. And that's sad for the person who suffers a loss. Now, at another occasion I had, there were a lot of his nieces and nephews there, and everybody kept bringing him up about the time. Remember when Uncle Jim was sleeping and we painted his toenails and his nails, and he woke up and pretended to go off the wall, but it was funny,
yeah.
and he was a jokester. And by everybody remembering the things about the person passed,
Yeah.
who passed, it's so fulfilling and heartwarming. We want to hear the stories.
Yep.
We really do. We don't want them to be lost, the
That's
memories.
right.
So
That's
if
right.
you are listening for
Yeah.
somebody else,
Yeah.
talk about them. Say,
Yes.
remember when we did this, remember when he did that at the dinner table or whatever. Just talk about it and sharing it because it's comforting for
It
the
is.
person closest to them, right?
It is. It is. And it continues to keep them with you because when they're not mentioned anymore, it feels like they've died again. That's really how it feels. And that goes with all the legacy of your children and your grandchildren to keep that memory alive, like you mentioned. So heartwarming and makes you feel like that person's still around, still with you, even though obviously they're not physically with you. I love talking about the different things we did and the times that we had. And of course, I'm a big video person, so I watch home videos all the time, and I look at my 151 albums here and countless pictures that I have. Um, but again, keeping that memory with you and doing special things, that celebrates that person. And that continues to keep that person with you. Yeah, that's what it's really about. So anything else?
I think we covered it all,
Me too.
and actually, we didn't cover it all. There's still so much to talk about, but we covered the basis of time, and I
Yes.
hope that this was a helpful thing for other people.
And I hope that people realize that time is so relative and don't let other people decide what time is for you. Time is what you want it to be. And it is, again, a process. So the next time we meet, we're going to be speaking about the journey, and it is everybody's individual journey, the entire bereavement process. So until then, take care and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye bye.
Bye.